Alrighty, guys, we're about to go live in like 2 to 3 minutes, so stay tuned.
Hey, mama said the way you move gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove. Ah, way you shake that thing gonna make you burn, gonna make you stay. Hey, baby, when you walk that way, watch honey drip, can't keep away.
Alrighty, guys, good evening, everyone. We got Carlos Vega here with the guys from the Back the Blues, so let's kick the party running. Guys, it's all yours.
Okay. I guess I'm the nervous one starting first this conversation. First off, very pleased to meet you, Mr. Vega. And you can hear me okay over there?
As long as you're going to keep it closer to your mouth.
Really close to my mouth?
Yep.
That better?
Much better.
Okay. So there's a lot of talk going on right now with city politics, and I find myself actually questioning them also. I've never been into being concerned about it until recently. Your opponent, Mr. Krasner, I see has made this city an unsafe place, in my opinion, and you, I'm hoping, would be someone that'll make it a safer place for people to live and just enjoy their daily lives in. One of my concerns is not, like I say, the gun violence, but the people who are arrested on gun charges and how they seem to go through a revolving door through our prison system or through the city itself. Your opponent, Mr. Krasner, on gun crimes and gun violence, and those who who use a firearm in a crime and then seem to be walking the streets for days to live later. Just enjoy their daily lives.
The issue we have is this.
One of my concerns is
in my
not, like I say, the gun violence,
safety,
but the people who are arrested on gun charges and how they seem to go through a revolving door through our prison system or through the city itself. Your opponent, Mr. Krasner, on gun crimes and gun violence, and those who use a firearm in a crime and then seem to be just enjoy their daily lives.
We have is this.
One of my concerns is
going all over the city. Latest example was the shooting in Center City, in Old City, and that's when the federal government got in and saying we had to address this. What is striking is the fact that the federal government is coming in, yet the district attorney, the highest law enforcement officer in the city, was not invited to speak. The police commissioner. We see through his whole tenure, beginning with Commissioner Ross, who was saying there are no consequences, and then Commissioner Outlaw saying, my officers are taking illegal guns off the street at record levels, but there is no consequence, and that is a problem. So the issue is that I would bring in a focused deterrence program. That was a program that existed before Mr. Krasner took office, and his second day in office, he got rid of that program. And just to briefly explain what that program is, it's a program where, and studies were developed, that violent crime is perpetrated by a small group of individuals. And in that program, what you do is you bring in, the DA as the leader, bringing in federal resources, FBI, ATF, DEA, and state law enforcement. They investigate these little organizations or gangs, whatever you want to call them, of who they are, where they are, what illegal acts they're doing. So there's a complete dossier on them. Then what you do is you bring in the mayor, city council, business people, and what I call violence interrupters. That's young people who've been in the system and have been successful. Then you bring them into what's called call-in sessions and say, listen, we know what you're doing, and we'll give you an alternative of what to do. We're going to give you job training, job opportunities. Social workers will address issues if you need mental health treatment or drug treatment. You have a choice. But if you commit violence, we're asking you to put the guns down yourself. We don't want to lock you up. But if you have those guns again, you commit a violent crime, we are coming after you. So there is a consequence there. But we have to keep that promise with city council, with the business community, to give them that other way out. Second prong of that, addressing the gun issue, or that issue of violence, is the fact that you need well-trained, seasoned prosecutors to have the resources to prosecute those cases and prosecute them successfully. And that way you get the guns off the street, because it's a deterrence. So it's a two-part prong that you attack this.
So my thing with that is this. I've seen, my opinion, the city of Philadelphia has literally embraced almost a culture of violence. It's not only that it's happening, it's actually, it's almost condoned. I mean, it is. I feel it's condoned in the city. The violence is condoned. It's all over social media. I see it all the time. They're giggling, they're laughing. People don't care about, if you don't do this, you'll get a job and we'll train you. They don't care about that. It doesn't seem that way to me. My question is, what's going to be that first step that if something happens, if there is crime, are we going to have the resources to actually hold people accountable, even for a first offense? If a child has a gun charge, a kid, 18, 20, 22 years old, has a gun charge on him on a Friday night and he assaulted somebody with it, is he going to be going home Monday morning waiting for a court date? Because that's what that is. That's a slap in the wrist to me.
I'll use the example. Okay, and I understand that. And the issue is, if you look at the stats, and I talk about the DA's own data, since he took office, the level of crimes has been going up and up and up.
Agreed.
And you know, and this past year we had the pandemic, and he uses the excuse of the pandemic. But if you look at the stats, since he took office, it has been going up.
Yeah, it hasn't been the pandemic. I agree 100%.
And I'll use an example of a stat looking from his own data board. There were 233 gun arrests since January 1st to March 31st. 233 cases where an illegal gun was removed from an individual who had it. Mm-hmm. Your witness is a police officer, not a civilian that say, I would want to come to court.
Right.
And of those 233, he has withdrawn the charges of 152 of those cases. Now that is shocking.
Yeah.
And it sends a message going, I got arrested with a gun. I got out of detention within a matter of hours.
Yeah.
In fact, oftentimes they might get out of detention before that the officer gets off duty. And it's frustrating to law enforcement who are doing their job. You know, Commissioner Outlaw has said it. You know, we're taking these guns off the street,
Yeah.
but nothing is
She said it, the
happening.
numbers are there.
So, you know, it's like raising a child. There have to be consequences. Absolutely. You know, you do this, you're fine. You do that, there is a consequence to that. We have gun laws on the books that addresses that. And it's outrageous that the police are doing their job, yet there is not a follow through with the DA's office through the court system. So that is a problem that I would address, because there is no excuse for withdrawing 152 of those cases.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Yes. You have an hour now yet?
So, one of my questions is, if you become DA, how are you going to vet and appoint the ADAs that go in? Because when Krasner, won, he basically blew out, a lot of people, including yourself.
Well, the thing is, and I've had the benefit of serving under 5 different district attorneys, and every DA brings in their own supervisors, okay, or more the staff that's more around him. I've been in law enforcement or in the DA's office 35 years, so I know the judges, the judicial system, I know the defense attorneys, I know police officers, and both, when I talk about law enforcement, both the local level, the federal level, and the state level. So in terms of vetting, and we see that Mr. Krauser says, I hired every individual. When I was in the DA's office, we would vet a person that we would send seasoned DAs, older, with at least 5 years experience, to the law schools to interview those individuals. Then you would say, well, I like this individual. We bring them back for what we call a panel interview, where not one person is making the decision. It would usually be a panel of 8 to 10 DAs from the appeals unit to trial units, vetting that person. And so it's a process of 1 step, 2 step, and then there's a voting of saying, okay, this individual has their credentials and interviewed well, we want them. But it's a group decision, because you might see someone one-on-one and say, oh, that person's great, yet 5 other people say, what are you thinking? Did you hear what they said? Mr. Krauser having that, I call arrogance, that he knows better. He had a class of, I think, 54, 64 people. 22 of them failed the bar. And he said they were the smartest, most elite people he had ever met. Meanwhile, I've never seen a record number of those people. I mean, when I went in, and it was like a big scandal, 5 people failed the bar. I wasn't one of them, but that's 5. And he kept those 22 people in the DA's office getting a lawyer's salary. Now think of it. We have budget cuts and all that. Here, if you fail the bar, you're not a lawyer. You're not productive. You can't go to court. So I know in the prior administrations, if you fail the bar, and it's like any law firm, okay, it's business. They were asked to leave. You're not a lawyer. We hired a lawyer. You're not. You have to leave. And of those 22 that failed the bar, 7 of them failed again. So, when you talk about him going to the schools himself and he talked to them individually and they're the best of the best, I don't think so. So I think he needs to, well, I'm smart enough to know I don't know everything, that I would have my team interview those people to have a second voice. In terms of bringing in people that you're talking about, who would I bring as my staff? I've had commitments from people who have been lawyers, 20 years, 30 years, who are in different law enforcement agencies and in private practice, that's saying, and a lot of them are ex-DAs, ex-prosecutors who left. They are willing to come back because they're Philadelphians, they care about the city, and they care about the excellence of that office. Because I see what's lacking is the lack of training. You've seen several murders occur with DAs dropping the ball, which you had never seen before, and you're seeing it in the press. Before Krauser, you've never heard this person got killed, but that person was let out or they did these things wrong. So absolutely, there are people that are seasoned, that are defense attorneys. Some are even retired judges that will come in and once again bring in that institutional knowledge to train those new people. And in terms of hiring new DAs, I will go back to the way it was, which is I send my people to vet them, bring them in so the interview process is more stringent. That way we make sure we hire future lawyers that will pass the bar and are committed in terms of working and know the mission of the DA's office, which is to be the voice and advocate for victims. You have to realize that has been forgotten, that victims of crime are silent. You know, when a person commits a crime, you have your lawyer, you have a right to remain silent, you're presumed innocent, you have a jury trial. But if you're killed, if you're robbed, if you're raped, what do you have? You go to the court system and you hope to get some measure of justice, and the DA is your lawyer. He's your voice, so you can get some justice.
Okay. And as a follow-up question, with regards to the police department, you know, we're seeing a record number of police officers in the drop program. Very few people are applying for the job. I think recently, this is the first time in many years that we don't even have a class in the academy. What is it that your office is going to do to maybe improve morale in the police department? Because it's, you know, it's a cyclical thing. You know, they go out and catch the bad guys. Your office would be responsible, you know, for prosecuting them. But if they're just getting, you know, let out, then maybe they don't arrest as many people. Maybe they don't pursue it as much.
Well, the thing is, in terms of the morale, it's not that I could do much about the morale, but I'm going to talk generally of the culture. Before Mr. Krasner, you know, people by and large would respect the police. You would say by and large, most police officers are doing their job. But as in any profession, there are some bad apples. I've seen 7 judges go to jail. I've seen lawyers go to jail. You know, it's not the profession. So absolutely. Are there some officers who've committed crime? Yes, and they have to be held accountable. I myself have prosecuted officers. Now, in terms of what I would do, I wouldn't use the word of morale, but a sense of working together, because I think when you become a police officer, just like a fireman, you want to perform a public service. Like when you think of a police officer, their job is, there's no other job that you put on a bulletproof vest. You're going in harm's way. When you think of a fireman, they're going into a fire. And that is a level of public service that you want to give back to the community. So I think we need to address the police, not to vilify them. If there's an officer something bad, absolutely, you address it. But I've seen Mr. Krasner has vilified the police for a soundbite, for his general message to be, you know, in national news. Look at me. As opposed to, if there's something wrong in the community, you got to bring in the community and say what happened. You bring in the police brass, because you know, everyone wants to be treated with respect and dignity. Everyone wants the police officer in their neighborhood for safety. So you don't vilify them. You build bridges and say, okay, let's talk. What went wrong? What can the police do better? And the police going, okay, we don't want to be hated. We want to do the job. What can we do better? And when you bring that lines of communication, because it's really, I don't need $100 million to do this. It's treating people with respect and say, let's talk and work this out, because it's amazing. The dumbest person in the room can have the most brilliant answer. So, but the thing is, my job as a DA is to say when something goes wrong, and we have to investigate it and say, okay, rather than turning crazy and laying blame, let's talk. Bring in this community. What were your needs? What are you feeling? Bring in the police so they can hear it. And I broker that, because my job is to build bridges, not to burn bridges.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna pass it around for now.
Nice to meet you. What type of DA are going to be? Like right now with your opponent, he just seems like a social warrior. He wants to do everything besides prosecute.
Well, the kind of DA I'm going to be is the one I was for 35 years, which is, I became a DA because growing up in New York, I witnessed violence. And personally, you know, my family owning a grocery store, they were robbed, they were burglarized. I would worry and pray for my mother not to be killed, okay? But by the same token, I saw my friends who weren't as lucky as me, who got swallowed up by the streets. They became addicted to drugs. They committed crime to feed that drug addiction. A lot of them died of drug overdoses. So the kind of DA I would be is one that is, I believe in consequences and making my community safe. But I also believe in reform, that there's some things that have gone wrong that we had to fix. There are some people, and it's 2 categories. There's those people who commit violent crime. You don't want somebody who's killing people. You don't want someone who's raping someone. I don't think anybody does. But there are those people that you see that you go, goodness, that person is addicted to drugs and that's why they're shoplifting. Or that young lady is addicted to drugs and that's why she became a prostitute. Are they committing a crime? Technically. But you have to see what caused it and give them that opportunity to put them back on their feet. So it's not about putting them in jail, because he likes to use the thing of mass incarceration. No. People who commit violent acts need to be incarcerated. But those people who are victims of the street, of lack of opportunity, we need to extend that hand to try to get them help through certain programs. You know, you could extend that hand. It's up to them to take it, but we have to afford them that opportunity. But you have to believe it's an adversarial system. My voice is for the voice of those victims of crime, to make them safe. I will try and give opportunity to those people who have missteps, because as I say, those are good people who made a wrong choice, or good people who had a bad day, and you don't throw them away forever, but you give them that choice at redemption. But they have to do that. You know, they have to take that hand and get better. And that's what I would do, certain programs, which is a learn and earn program that I want to do, an adopt a school program, which if you want to know later, I'll tell you about it. But these are programs that I'm going to hold people accountable, but give them an objective how they could get back on their feet and be responsible adults. Once again, you know, contributing to society.
What's going on? What's your plan with with supporting the police? I mean, I have a lot of friends who are cops, and some of my friends who are police officers don't even want to do their job. They're not protected by the Philadelphia judicial system whatsoever.
Well, it's a difficult question, but a basic question is this, okay? As I said before, there are going to things happen in the community that the press is going to throw gas on the fire, okay? My job is to have everyone, you know, let's tone it down, let's discuss these things. As to the morale of the police, and I understand what you're saying with your personal friends, I believe I was talking to a police lieutenant. I think there are 900 officers entering the drop program that they want to leave. That's going to be a problem, because you need
they're not protected.
No, and I understand that, but it's a question of, as I say, it's not a question of protecting them. It's a question of treating them fairly. Okay, what I want to do is, and the problem is, we need to bring, and I would have an open door policy on a regular basis every week of bringing in the police brass, lieutenants, captains, and community groups coming in on a regular basis, because the police want to do better. They want a better police department. The community wants a better police department. So an example I use is this. I want to be part of the police training, which is in the police academy, they train themselves and continue to train themselves, and it develops a mindset. It's us against them. You don't understand us. So I want to bring in the DAs, judges, defense attorneys, community leaders to be part of that education. By that same token, I need to talk to the commissioner, because there are programs that, and it's not programs, it's been captains that are really thinking outside the box to create unity with the community. I'll use an example of a police captain in South Philadelphia. He started a program where all his officers took pictures like a baseball card. And they put in what high schools they went to, what sports they liked, what sports they played. And then he put in the community that if a child got the full set of a squad, you go to the police station, you get a toy. So the kids now, rather than running for the police, are running to a police officer going, what's your name? Can I have your card? It's humanizing the police. Then when they were going to the police station, it wasn't because mom or my brother got into trouble. It's, I'm going for a good thing. There's another captain in the 24th Police District. What he does is he has his officers, when they have block parties or events, they go not as police, but being part of that festivity. And then in the winter times, they hand out food, turkeys, free coats. And these are programs that, you know, when you say protecting the police, you have to understand it's, you know, there's a knee-jerk reaction of saying, people would say, I'm protecting the police, meaning I'm protecting bad police. You understand? What I'm saying is, you treat the police with respect, you train them better, but the community has to learn what the hard job they're doing, and the police have to be open-minded to say, what are this community's needs? I'll use the example when I was in Kensington. The business people there want the police there. Their only complaint was, and they respect the police and love them, they said, what I would like is those policemen don't get out of their police car and go to my barber shop and say, I'm Officer so-and-so. You need anything? Or to a grocery store, go, I'm Officer so-and-so. Make me, I'm going to eat a sandwich.
Well, they don't do that because they have a target on the back.
But
City of Philadelphia, they do. They're not allowed to do their job.
You see, but you're saying a target on their back. You can't use that as an excuse because it's a very simple solution. That barber doesn't hate the police. He says, I want to know you.
You're talking about Kensington,
Okay,
the biggest opiate crisis in the world.
That's right, and that's why that business owner wants the police there.
I wouldn't want to be comfortable getting out of my car in the middle of Kensington as a police officer.
But
look at the riots that happened. Right? I'm going to talk about Common Ave.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for myself and a lot of members of the Back to Blue Page, Mayfair, Holmesburg, Bustleton, Somerton, Romans, guys, all these neighborhoods would have got overran if it wasn't for our groups.
you get the
All these neighborhoods would have got overrun if it wasn't for our groups.
And-
Okay?
and-
So
yeah.
we had police officers from the 2nd and the 15th who would ask us to go in the stores and clear them out for them because they were scared to get reprimanded for doing their job.
and you're talking about two things. The first thing you said is, if I were an officer in Kensington, I'd be afraid to get out of my car. Okay, an officer shouldn't be afraid to get out of his car. The same way I was a homicide prosecutor,
They are.
I wasn't afraid to prosecute a murderer. And people say, well, you're putting murderers in jail. Aren't you afraid? I took the job. You understand? So now I understand the second part of your question,
It's the same
which
thing.
is,
I meant to put it in the same thing. Yeah, I mean, it's my whole question is, what are you going to do to back them up? You understand? They can't do their job. So when the riots happened in June, they weren't allowed to do their job.
Okay.
Look at
But-
Bologna. He
you know,
defended
but
himself and he gets, you know what I mean?
I know, but do you understand what I'm trying to say is this? I don't control the police.
Right.
You understand? The commissioner, the mayor said, and I'll use this example, and I don't know what they said, but let's say the stores are being looted. The police also have to get their orders for that commissioner. If they said do not do anything, they have to stand down. Okay? It's not being backed up or not. Those were orders from, let's say, the mayor or the police commissioner. Now, when you talk about the example of Lieutenant Bologna, right? He was arrested.
That's where your office comes in, though,
Okay,
right?
that's where the DA's office come in. Okay, they did their investigation, right? They took it to court, and what happened? Officer Bologna was discharged. There was no evidence. The system worked. You understand? I couldn't say, oh, I'm going to make that decision from the video, and I don't have all the information because I only saw what you saw on TV. The DA's office supposedly made an investigation, right? They brought in 3 DAs to prosecute Bologna, and a judge who is fair, not on the police side, not on the victim side, says there is no evidence that he did something wrong. The system worked. Okay? Now, the DA's office now is appealing to have him rearrested to go to a higher judge. Now, what I'm curious about is if that judge didn't see enough evidence, I don't know what this other judge is going to see. Is there something new?
But you don't think it starts there? All the other police officers see that happening to him. Now they're scared to do their job.
And I know what you're saying to do their job, but you have to realize this. I said I'm not going to vilify the police. I'm not going to get on TV and say that officer was horrible. You understand? I have to investigate. I have to be responsible. And I can't say this either, not knowing the fact. He didn't do anything wrong. You understand? I have to be dispassionate and say, what are the facts in this case? If I'm doing that, then I'm doing my job. Okay, so my job is not, what I see with Mr. Krasner is he wants to be on TV, on national news, saying that was a horrible cop, regardless of what happened. You understand? I don't want to be on TV. I don't want to make a movie like he did. I don't want to write a book like he did. You understand? You have to consider his motives. My motive is this. I was never a politician. I'm stepping up to the plate because my city is dying. Okay? People are dying at record numbers. So my job, as I said, I want to build bridges, is this. I want the community and the police to say, hey, we want the same thing. We want a better neighborhood. I want to go home when I leave work. I want everybody to be happy when they see a cop go, he's not coming to beat me up. He's checking on my store. When I had my mother's grocery store, I was happy when the police were there. They go to the back of the store and eat their sandwiches to get warm. So I saw the police as taking care of my mom, being normal people. And that's why I go back to the barber. Who's in Kensington? who hates what's happening and are glad the policeman's there. All they're saying is this. They're not saying, I hate you, police. They go, why can't you come so I can know you? Yeah, you know, and it's such an easy thing. I don't need $100 million grant to say to the officer, go to the barbershop, maybe even get a haircut there. You know, they go, okay, he gets his haircut here. Get your sandwiches there.
The respect. They're giving no respect, especially.
They're not giving a respect. No, and there are people who don't respect the police, but that barber respects the police. Okay, all those guys, you know, all those business owner respect the police. They want the police. The issue is this. They're not hating the police. What I'm saying is this. They want the police. They respect them. What they're saying, and that's why I talk about building bridges, all they're asking is something simple. I want to know you. I just want to know your name. That's why that captain who got the baseball cards, those kids got to know the cops. Okay? Going to the police station. That captain who was giving out turkeys and coats, the community saying, yeah, they're here. They're engaged with us. So it's not an issue of protecting the police or whatever. It's the police are doing their job. 99% are really good. And there are a few bad apples, absolutely. And they have to be held accountable. Just like judges went to jail. Just like lawyers that I knew went to jail. So you know, it creates friction when somebody says, I'm going to protect the police. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect the city. And if you do wrong, whether you're a policeman, a judge, they're accountable. Right. I would want respect to be built in, but Denzel Washington said this very profoundly. Somebody says, well, you think the government could get rid of racism? And he says, you can't legislate hate away. People got to learn to talk and know each other. You understand? So, you know, a person could say, I've never met a Spanish guy. They're drug dealers. But then when you meet me, you go, no, they're cool. You know, they have families. Because the one thing I say about everyone, and I've been in Irish bars, black neighborhoods, the three things we want is this: to be safe, to be loved, and for our children to have a better life. I don't care what color you are, what religion you are. It's you know, but it comes from the home, and this I can't do as a DA. Respect is taught in the home. I was taught to respect my elders. I was taught to respect hard work. My mother is not educated. She didn't go to high school. That's the smartest person I met. So when I go to a restaurant and there's a waiter or whatever, I don't look down on them because I have a law degree. That's my father. That's my mother. And that's respect of people doing hard work. So I would not say I'm protecting the police. I'm going to do my job. Okay, and I'm not going to vilify a police officer. And when something happens, rather than going on TV, laying blame, I'm going to know the facts. But I'm going to bring in that community before anything starts bad happening. Talk to them, saying, come on, I'm going to tell you what the facts are, and bring in that police brass and say, okay, let's fix this because it's our city. We don't want to burn down neighborhoods or businesses. I use the example of Aramingo with the Walmart. If they left, think of the service they provide: food, clothes, hardware, all that, and jobs. And they're going to attack it and burn it. Who does that hurt? Except the people who live there. And what I'm saying is this. If I'm the DA, people are going to be held accountable. Because when my mother had the grocery store in the 60s and 70s, when the riots came, the reason they didn't loot her store was everyone in the neighborhood stood in front of her store to not let it get burned. So I am cognizant of businesses. I'm cognizant of the fact we have to protect our businesses, because if our businesses leave, it's going to destroy a neighborhood.
It just sucks when I worry about our kids going somewhere with our kids and defending our families. You can't go anywhere without someone pulling a gun out or causing a fight. I live across the street from the mall, and there's been multiple times my wife's gotten into it with people because they were just acting crazy because they're allowed to. You know what I'm saying?
And that goes back to what I'm having people held accountable. I mean, I hear your complaint, but it's common sense. People who do bad things have to have a consequence. You know, it's that simple.
So should I step in now?
Excuse me. Hold on. What?
Should I step in now? Like, I have a question as well.
Oh God, I'm afraid. Go ahead.
No, you shouldn't be. I'm quite a nice guy. At least I'm trying to be. Regardless, we know about the Kensington. They do have their own problem. We do know about the South Philadelphia. They got their own problem. Looting is going along with the elections, so it's out of the questions for now. You are in Somerton, and in Somerton, we've met with you about 2 months ago, for on the very first occasion, and hopefully I'm not taken out of the context, but you believe in a theory of broken windows.
Yes, I believe we had to address small crimes. Okay, let's use the example. Okay, this is Somerton.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to continue. You do believe in a theory of broken windows, right?
Yeah, you have to address retail theft, prostitution, people loitering, disorderly conduct. Yes.
Yes. So the next question then would be, hey, Mary Poppins. Anyways, right now in Somerton, we're getting the very first year of the extreme racing when the Bustleton became pretty much uninhabitable. Now we're getting the quads and dirt bikes, and Philadelphia does not have any authority either to chase them, nor not just Philadelphia, but Pennsylvania in general. That's one of the the only state in the United States that does not allow municipal police to have the speed detecting devices. That means if he's getting let's say double over the speed limit, he goes to court. And he's not getting any points, he's paying the fine, and next day he's back on the street doing exact same thing. So technically, City of Philadelphia does not do any protection. I understand about the stopping someone in a bad neighborhood that can create some possible bad propaganda from the news, etc. But at the same time, we are living in a place where there is not much crime is going on. Thankfully, we're one of the quietest, safest neighborhoods. At the same time, small problems do happen. And now, since I started talking to the guys who's actually bringing the racing over here, they got away from the Aramingo and Torresdale because there, first of all, the roads are bad, traffic more congested, and if they're gonna cut someone off, most likely they're gonna get shot by the end of the night. So they moved everything here. They're not going outside of the county because they do have an option to pull over and prosecute him to the biggest. And here they have total freedom. So you are as the DA. What's your possible actions on those violations that cannot be regulated by the police at the moment?
Okay. Well, talk about this is a safer neighborhood, Somerton. It is. But didn't you have the issue of the man throwing away body parts in his murder a few weeks ago?
Not a few weeks ago. That was a few months ago. But out of if you're gonna take the crime levels through the city.
Yeah, you are the safest. Now, the complaint I've gotten with the ATVs is not just Somerton. I've had all the neighborhoods are complaining is the biggest thing. I, as a DA, can't address that by myself because it's a group effort, which is the police have to get on board of what tactics they're going to use. The mayor and city council have to get on board because if you look at it, ATVs are illegal to be driven on our streets. You can
as long as they're registered properly.
Okay. But still, you can confiscate those. I'll use the example many years ago. There was an issue in South Philadelphia, drag racing. And they couldn't stop it because the straightaway near UPS, great road, great straightaway. And people were getting killed. The police got proactive and worked with the state police. They were monitoring their computer chatter, and not computer, but their social media. So they became aware when they were going to congregate, who was coming. So they were proactive. They got there before it was a large group that they couldn't chase. Got there with the small groups, and we're addressing that issue. I think we have to do that. But we have to work with, and I would want the police and city council and mayor to say, listen, we have to put some emergency legislation saying there has to be a thing that because of, we could be creative, noise pollution, we have to confiscate that. Or too many people causing a traffic hazard. So there are so many avenues we could use, as well as being 21st century of knowing where they're going to be, what time, who, and how many. But that's a group effort, at which point my office, when there is a violation committed, we will prosecute it fully. But the police have to then change their policy, which is when you can chase. Because I know there's a standout policy of we can't chase those ATVs because they might go on the sidewalk and kill someone. So it's a complicated issue that I need the police who want to do something, the DA's office that I can give the consequence, but the mayor and city council have to say, okay, this is what we're going to do in our city. The same way the mayor wants to do an emergency order of putting more gun legislation. Okay, well, if you want to do that, why don't we deal with something that everybody's complaining about, which is the ATV, which should be more solvable.
So, speaking of racing, and as you said, it's like got to be the group effort. The solution for that is very simple. There is a PA regulations for the exhaust system, so you simply cannot alter it. And whoever gave the state inspection for this vehicle should be accountable for modifying or allowing it to be on a street, because he's also taking the CO pollution test and putting the sticker on the window. Don't go after the guy, go after the business. Like, let them sponsor you.
Yep. Do you understand what you're saying is this? It's the solution has to be creative with all hands on deck. Do you understand? Yep. I'm smart enough to know that I don't know the whole answer to that ATV problem. But let's say you, a community leader, and being concerned about this issue in your neighborhood, you're there with my open door policy saying, look, you could challenge it on this, you can after the business and such, then those people who really care about the environment saying, oh, look at these emissions, you're going to destroy the planet. So having that conversation, we can institute emergency legislation to do that. But it's really getting creative, because everybody right now is just putting their hands up going, well, what do you do? I can't do anything. So the police are frustrated. The DA isn't doing anything because nothing is happening. And then city council, hopefully you're calling them saying, I want something done. Well, I would be that guy to broker that deal of saying, come to me. What is the problem? What do you think your solutions are? Then I can go and have you speak at city council and say, boom, boom, boom. And then some city council could bring in a measure saying, I want this. So once again, what I say is it's working together to solve a problem.
And there's going to be a meeting very soon about it, like with a lot of city leaders at the Port Richmond. Regardless, speaking next to the humanizing the police. As of right now, I cannot recall too many police officers stepping out of the vehicle. So pretty much all the conversations are going through the bulletproof window. It's easier to speak to a banker than to a police officer, like in person, not through the window. And you are completely right about not allowing, but asking them to go to the businesses. And not because people around don't like them, but because if you go into the business representing yourself, showing that you are not just a uniform, that will create more traction. Humanizing the police, that's the key, not dehumanizing.
And what I say is this, how Krasner wants $100 million, okay? That solution is free. It's having common sense saying, I'm going to, a captain and a lieutenant can say this. Every police officer has his sector. He knows that area. Pick a day of the week. Say, look, every Thursday, get out of your car, just go to the businesses and introduce yourself. It's something that we don't need a giant people and intellectuals doing some report for years. It's common sense. Get out of the car, go in there, and that's it. It's humanizing the police. The policeman is knowing those individuals, and it creates community. Something like that policeman goes, I'm going to get a haircut here.
Even more, City of Philadelphia provides the work cell phone to each police officer, and does not give any better, I know the guy now, when he's actually giving this cell phone number. That's a work cell phone provided by the city. Mm-hmm. But still, as long as you do have an access to the police officer who's serving your quarters, that's already a connection for you as a business owner or as a resident, that if anything is going on, you can call me and maybe I can either help you or like give you a solution or something.
And at minimum, let's say the police are busy, that they can't answer the phone, their city cell phone, send a text saying this is the problem. You could read it, you could address that issue, or if you're getting off duty, tell your supervisor to have a officer address that issue that they're facing. But those solutions of humanizing the police, it's an easy solution. I lived it as a child, that I knew a face and a name to that officer. It changes the dynamic that, let's say there's a domestic dispute and you open the door and it's a policeman sometimes you're embarrassed going, we're having an argument, and it, de-escalates the things. Almost like when I was a child, an officer grabbing me going, you want me to tell your mother? You go, no, please don't tell my mother. She's going to kill me. But that officer goes, I know your mom, and I know who you are. You don't have to arrest me. Just say, listen, that's dumb. And the kid realizes that is dumb, and they're embarrassed. And you could, let's say a kid starts hanging out, and maybe I'll use the example, he's starting to smoke cigarettes. That cop could tell that parent, go, listen, your kid's hanging out with some bad kids. I just want you to know. That parent would say, thank you. You know, you're trying to stop this kid from escalating a downward spiral.
Okay, the very next question then would be, speaking of Somerton again, as of right now, we do have a big construction going on at the One Red Line, which is the new UPS location, and the community is fighting against it like with the foam on its mouth. We cannot get through the elected officials, we cannot get through quite a lot of people. There is a questions and concern about the zoning permits, how everything was signed, and if it is delivered to the DA office, what's the chances actually DA can go against the city if it is a violation?
Okay, and I'm sensitive to that because I worked 15 years at UPS, so it helped pay my children's tuition. Don't talk about Brown.
Okay.
But no, the thing is this. The issue of UPS getting the zoning and everything, there is the issue that politicians want the jobs, okay? Absolutely. You know, that provided me a job and paid for my children's education. So let's say Somerton, you don't want that facility there. There's going to be, and this is politics, and I have to step back because I'm the DA about safety, but you have to realize, and I'm thinking objectively, the mayor would want that facility because it's creating jobs and a tax revenue. I'm sure there's another county that wouldn't mind having it, say that's creating jobs and tax revenue in my county.
As well as the city of Philadelphia wouldn't mind it, but when you're putting the 1 million square foot facility, commercial facility with 10,000 trucks through 24 hours in the middle of residential area.
And that's what I'm saying is this. You have to, let's say, bring in a lawsuit of stopping, you know, bringing in an injunction.
please.
Okay, and you do that, it stops that thing. You're going to be battling major lawyers because a company like UPS will bring in legal because they want that facility. Like example of Amazon, they're a giant company. So you as a community group, you'd have to find some big law firm to do it pro bono, because battling business, they will destroy you in terms of they can paper you.
And I understand that.
But I say this: you have to address it with the mayor saying, or your city council people, we don't want it. We want you to fight it. And if you don't do what we're telling you, we're going to vote you out and bring in a council person, whatever, who will do it for us. You want to be a senator? You want to be a congressman? This is what we want. If not, come election time, you're not going to be here anymore. So that's one solution for you.
The next election is in 3 years, and the facility will be operating by the December.
Okay.
Yep, so I understand that, but if the permits or any violations within the within the paperwork that was actually violated through the city, are you as the DA, can you fight against it or see the consequences?
If there is a violation, and you have to realize my issue is criminality. If there's a civil violation, that goes to the city solicitor, which is another city agency. So it's something criminal. Let's say the mayor got paid off money, a bribe. Then I could get into that. Also, the federal government would get into that. So we're talking about, is it a civil violation or is it criminal corruption? Now, I do have
time
to.
only for one question left. We just got a message from your driver who's stating that we have less than 10 minutes. So if anyone else wants to ask a question, anyone?
What's your stance with stop and frisk?
Stop and frisk, it's interesting. Stop and frisk was by the city stopped. It's illegal. It cannot be enforced. Okay? I've talking to certain communities, and I'm talking communities of color, black neighborhoods want stop and frisk. Okay, they want it. But the bottom line is, as the DA, I have to enforce the law. I have to work within the parameters of the law. So right now, because of the mayor and city council, stop and frisk is not an option. Should the mayor, and I guess it would be the city council people and the community saying, we want that back, it would be an issue. But stop and frisk, absolutely not. Now you can address you can address that issue because an officer can stop someone with probable cause. At which point you can address that. Now I have to go. Okay.
Can you read that? Can you read this question?
I can't read that. My eyes hurt for that. You read it?
Oh yeah. It says, I have a question for Father Vega regarding the situation on I-76 during the riots. As an example, as a DA, would you prosecute the officer that maced the individual that held up the traffic on I-76? Sir?
The officer who held up the traffic or the people?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
He maced the
well,
person.
that question has been answered already. You see, well, I'm a civilian. I don't know everything that happened. All I saw is, as a civilian, what I saw on TV. You saw the DA's office arrested the officer. It was brought evidence, 3 DAs prosecuting him, and the judge says there was no criminality. He discharged the case. You understand? So I have to go. It would be irresponsible for me to give a comment, not knowing everything, okay? Just seeing what TV showed. Also, you got to remember what the TV news does. They splice and dice what they want you to see. So I don't know what that whole tape is. I don't know what the investigation was. All I know is the court system was used. The police officer had his attorney. The prosecution presented their evidence, and there was none. So that's the last question. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, guys, thank you very much for watching. We are done for tonight, and thank you for your time. Have a great day, everyone. Yes, anyone and everyone. Love ya.